there, I'm Julia Snedkova, and I'm about to go live on the Online Prosperity Show, where we'll be talking about my career trajectory moving from journalist to the corporate boardrooms and now being an executive career coach. So if you're looking how to change your career, you absolutely must watch this episode because I will be sharing all the success formulas for you to succeed already today.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and if this is your first time here, let me just tell you what you're in for. This is the number one show, or the number one spot where we dive deep into exclusive stories, frameworks, struggles, and breakthroughs from the trailblazers who have actually solved the very problems that you might be wrestling with. And our goal is just to show you that real transformation isn't just possible, but it is actually within reach. And to usher us into this episode today, I'm honored to welcome Julia Snedkova. Now, Julia, how are you doing today?
Hi, Prosper, and thank you so much for having me here. Really appreciate, as you said, transformation is always within the reach, and I'm all about that. So looking forward to discuss it with you. And yes, I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Now, should I have spoken in one of the four languages that you already speak about, or should I be asking you what country are you in right now? Because from what I've gathered while looking you up, you're a bit of a globetrotter, right? So
I'm for sure cosmopolitan, right? So not a cocktail as a person. And so I'm originally from Russia, so that probably gives you an idea of my name. I've been living in Switzerland and France and Singapore, currently based in Paris, not sure for how long, but that's where I am. So yes, I kind of picked up all the languages along the way.
Absolutely. And for those that are wondering which accent we're going to be speaking in today, well, you're going to have to listen through the whole conversation because Julia is a powerhouse in and of herself. Like, she's already established. She is cosmopolitan and not exactly the cocktail, but in human form. So to explain what that is, she's an executive and leadership coach who helps ambitious corporate women to break through promotion ceilings and also step into bigger roles, but they're doing this in their own terms. Okay, so it's not necessarily following through, set, standards or status quo, but they're actually doing it because you absolutely want to be there. And she draws on more than 16 years of leadership experience across Fortune 500s, and she actually holds an INSEAD MBA. And now she combines boardroom fluency and an ICF coaching expertise. So not only does she speak all these different languages, but she actually speaks, professionalism at the highest stakes. And that's the reason why she can tone it down and do it in her own terms. So we're going to be, going through her journey, how she ended up here, and what actually makes her unique. Now, Julia, I could go on, and maybe I might actually start speaking in tongues, and people might be surprised what I'm actually talking about here. Tell us a little bit about your journey, especially before your corporate days. Who was Julia, and what stories was she around?
That's a good question, because if I make a step back and go outside of my corporate career, you would never guess who I was back then, because actually I'm a journalist by education, right? So it's like, it makes the story even more unpredictable in a way. Growing up, I was passionate. I'm still passionate about literature, about languages, like really trying to understand different cultures through different books. And so I decided I will be a journalist. It was a big drama in the family. My family wanted me to be a doctor, which has nothing to do with journalism. And so basically we made a deal with my parents They gave me 1 year to get accepted to their faculty of my choice, which was Moscow State University Faculty of Journalism. And if it doesn't work, next year I will go to the medical school. So that was my starting point. And I put, I don't know, if I say 200%, probably it won't be enough. I put all the thousand percentages in just to make sure that I get accepted, because it was such a strong passion from my side. And yeah, so I started as a journalist. In Russia, at least back then, to get accepted to the Faculty of Journalism, you need to be already published since young ages. So I started being published since 14 years old, covering like very, how do I call it, like affordable to my age topics. So I was writing about social topics, about student lives, school lives, like really trying to get first understanding how journalism works from inside. But in reality, I was just writing from my heart, right? Don't forget, back then there was no AI. Internet was still kind of making its first steps in the remote areas of many countries, and in Russia, I was not growing up in Moscow. I was growing up in a small region. So I was just, okay, I'll be a journalist. So it was like very fun years back then, sitting in the library, collecting your materials, study your topics, learning, writing, submitting, being edited by newspapers, getting feedback. So it was like getting adult life at the early ages, I would put it this way. So that's how I started.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for opening us up with that, because that really sets the stage of you wanting to live life in your own terms. Okay, so let's just really go back to the fact that parents wanted you to be a doctor. What was the inspiration around medicine? Was it the field that they were in, or was it that they just wanted, the best for their kids?
It's a good question, because like I'm not coming from the medical family at all. And so I was just making fun of my parents. You want me to go to the medical school, so when you get older, I can give you, I don't know, home treatment.
Oh, they have free medicine.
Exactly. But I guess they just saw it as a stable choice, safety net. So when I grew up, like kind of you always can make your way through if you're a doctor, especially if you're a dentist. Like it's kind of at least it was seen by them as a secured profession. And I was growing up, like I was born before the collapse of the USSR, right? So it was like very unstable situation in the country, economically very fragile. And so like for my parents, when the question of me getting higher education popped up, I was like, okay, what's the most secure? Like, okay, you go to become a doctor, because you will always have patients, right? So like independently of the situation in the country, you will still have people around you who will need your help. And so that kind of was their thinking, but it absolutely was not mine.
Oh, absolutely. But what was their sort of station in society, that would have, yeah.
My parents, they actually, I'm coming from the military family. So both my parents served for army. And so it definitely gave me certain framework of my education. So for me, going to the army was really no go from the get-go. They tried because it's alternative kind of safety choice. So then medicine popped up, which I was still no. Because even like logically, when you prepare to get accepted to the university, right? So if I choose between medicine and I go to chemistry, biology, or I choose between journalism, which is literature, languages, right? It's so different areas to study, right? I was like, okay, I cannot keep up two directions simultaneously. I need to make a choice. I need to make a priority. And so I was like, okay, I love you. I respect you. I know you want well for me, but I'm not passionate about chemistry. I respect the field, but it's not my field. I was saying to my parents, like even during the studies, when they bring students to the first operations, when you need, I don't know, to see their first blood or whatever, I was like, I will be the first one on the floor. I will faint. It's absolutely not for me. And so like, okay, go try. If you get accepted, you won. If you won't get accepted, you go back.
Absolutely. And I like that a great deal, because then, it really positions you as a person who could make decisions at an earlier age, and some parents would have actually won in this particular instance, but you didn't allow them to. Now, in your time, or were the kids always just going to follow what the parents said, and then that just became the story of their day?
You're putting me in a very uncomfortable situation because I don't want to say I'm unique, right? So, but for me, back then, it didn't feel right. And I
Mm,
think I'm a very intuitive person. So I just try to feel what's right for myself. And
right.
going to medical school was not right. Then my parents kind of, they accepted journalism. They're like, okay, so let's give it a go. But would you accept not to go to Moscow? Would you accept going to any other region to be closer to home? And for me,
Mm.
again, it was non-negotiable. I was like, okay, let's go, let's visit them. Maybe I will like them. And we went with my mom. We visited several universities because like you have an option to speak to students, to academic body, like meet people there. And it didn't work for me. I was like, look, I want to go to journalism, and if I want to be part of this field, it must be the main university, the university that prepares the best journalists in the country. And so I cannot answer your question. I don't know how other parents would behave, but all my classmates from my school, uh, they would stay in the region, right? No one would go to capital. No one would move to Moscow as I aspired to do back then.
Absolutely. Now, the reason why I'm asking this question is in some societies and in some cultures, parents really do have a long stay in the outcomes of what the kids then do. But then you went on and you took journalism, and you obviously would have excelled in it. Did the passion of wanting to not become a doctor then follow through with everything else that you went on and did? Because then it just looks like there was a need for you to actually distance yourself from having to then succumb to what the parents would have wanted in the first place.
Look, it definitely fueled my actions, right? I cannot say anything here. And I really respect my parents for behaving that way because they really wanted to leave the choice with me. Because quite often what happens, and as a coach, I still sometimes see it in developed adults, when adults turn back and say, if only my parents would allow me to do A or B, right? So my parents didn't want me from the beginning to have this room for potential blame or putting accountability on their shoulders that okay, so because of you I went to the medical school. You are given a choice, like now go and take this choice, right? It's opportunity, it's in your hands, it's up to you to get accepted. And it's definitely gave me the fuel to make sure everything I could, everything in my power to get accepted to the place I wanted.
And obviously, making decisions like that at 14 meant maybe you had a frame of reference. Were they people that you were looking up to at that particular time that you just thought, or was it very intuitive and you had that strong calling that was happening at that time?
I think it was 100% intuitive because, again, I didn't have a single journalist in the family. My parents considered it as extremely dangerous profession, right? So, like, they expected me to go to the war zones, to be a correspondent from the like very sensitive locations, and again, back then in the country was like Russia was going quite through a lot of mess, so they didn't want it for me to be there, and so I didn't have any role models to rely on, ask for a help, be mentored. No, it's just kind of me listening to my heart, if I can say it this way.
Oh, absolutely. That's very brave. I mean, especially at that age. I don't think at 14 I even knew how to write my own name, and there you were already writing.
Okay, let's be fair. You get accepted to the universities at 17, so it's like it's 3 years
Yeah,
more.
I understand. Yeah, absolutely. So obviously, when did you then pursue the journalistic career?
I've been working as a journalist indeed. So like as their education lasts for 5 years, and every year you're expected to do a hands-on practice, right? You go to the newspaper of your choice or TV channel and you work there. And one of the years, I think it was the third year of my education, I was working for the Ministry of Science, and their project that was assigned with is to launch a scientific magazine to the market, like literally from the beginning, right? So you have an idea or at least their people in ministry, they had an idea. So now go launch it. Like choose a name, choose a distribution flow, choose a pricing, set up your editorial board, who will be a journalist, how often you will be produced, who is printing you, right? So all those steps you're in my hands. And I really love the process. So you see, I didn't write at this stage. I was not a writing journalist, but I was still kind of in the publishing environment, in the media environment. And I really love this aspect of bringing something to the market and making sure it succeeds business-wise, right? And so I was like, okay, what is this? Like, what type of profession is that? And I was Googling or using whatever was, no, Yahoo, what was the search engine back then. I was searching, I was like, what's the name of this profession? And it turned out to be a brand management. Like you have a brand or you want to launch a brand and then you manage it, right? So like, okay, so what's my positioning? What's my competitive advantage? What's my pricing? How people will know about me? How much people will pay? And I loved it so much. So after this summer practice experience I had with the Ministry of Science, I was like, okay, so I really want to dedicate myself to something which will be in the brand management field. So I still worked for Ministry of Science until the graduation. And then when I graduated, I was looking at the big corporates because, again, my second step of search was, okay, what is a company that originated the term of brand management? Because I wanted to go to the source, right? I didn't go to any company. I wanted to go to the ones that came up with the concept. And it turned out to be Procter & Gamble, American company. And I was like, okay, so probably that's the one. And so I studied the composition of Procter & Gamble. It was obviously L'Oreal, it was Unilever, it was Mars, all these like big companies we have in our daily life. And again, same as I've done with while choosing the faculty where I would like to go, I went to interviews and I tested corporate culture. It didn't click with me. And I was like, okay, then the choice is clear. I go to P&G and I started there. That's how the shift from journalism to corporate happened. Because in a way, while being a journalist, I had my hands on branding and how it's managed, and I really loved it. Like, okay, I'll give it a go, but I still love writing. So I'm not betraying journalism. I love writing. I mean, I write on LinkedIn every day now, and I always say like when I grow up and when I will be like Winston Churchill sitting next to my fireplace, I will write. I will
Oh,
write again.
absolutely. There will be a lot of tales to come out of that. So you obviously now have, positioned yourself in these Fortune 500 sort of, roles, and, just walk us through, because there was global teams involved and you continued, obviously structuring yourself so that you could climb the ladder.
Yeah, I think when you succeed, people say like you just been lucky. So I guess I've been lucky in a way because I started working in Russia, in Moscow. Moscow is a huge market. Russia is a huge market, right? Geographically and also business-wise, it has a significant contribution to the global P&L. So immediately, and plus the brands that I was responsible back then, it was already like. I think Russia was number 5 globally in terms of impact for the business. So it was immediately putting me in a very responsible situation. So like I was not managing a small market, invisible market, where if I do something wrong, no one will notice. I was on everyone's eyes, and I was very diligent in what I was doing. I was like, okay, I felt accountable. It's a big business. I'm responsible. I need to make sure it's growing. And so back then I was responsible for the brand. I don't know if you know it, the Duracell batteries, like
Batteries, yeah.
like Duracell little bunny running
Oh,
around. So
yeah.
I was in charge of this, and we managed to grow market share like almost 50%. Like every second battery sold in the country was Duracell. And I was like, oh, okay, it's working. And so because the first assignment I was given worked relatively well, I started getting geographical expansion. So from Russia, they gave me Eastern Europe. From Eastern Europe, they offered me position in Switzerland. When I moved to Switzerland, it became Central, Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So it was like geographies were expanding only because I guess I enjoyed what I was doing and the results kind of were coming up together.
Absolutely. And congratulations on that. Even I think all our Walkmans were being powered by Duracell batteries. So maybe you would have had something to do with that,
Walkman, I even forgot about it. Yes.
Absolutely. Great stuff. And obviously your role now had moved from, pushing the pen as a journalist to now leading global teams. And obviously this was unprecedented and things like that. Who did you become?
I became a learner. I guess that would be the main word because like the whole transition from journalism to business was very harsh for me. Because I was very good at languages, I was very good at linguistics, but then I was like, oops, there are statistics, there are analysis, there is Excel. And like for me, it was completely new. And I remember like first years, it took a lot of mental power for me to catch up. And I was saying until I got so I started my corporate career 2007, right? And so until 2016, when I went to MBA, I was always saying I was self-taught because no one taught me how to do business. No one told me what is P&L. No one told me on which line in P&L you look at, right? What does it mean successful or profitable P&L or losing P&L? Marketing, sales, trade, all those aspects I was just literally learning myself by looking around and absorbing uh, what is the good practices are. So I try to talk to people. I try to get best examples. So that's why I truly believe that I became a learner because it was completely such a uncomfortable in a good sense environment for me, like new environment. I was like, okay, I need to learn.
Absolutely. And obviously, congratulations on the MBA and moving forward. But you actually started to sense a bit of tension under all these accolades and all this shine. What first cracked your sort of confidence that you couldn't keep playing by the same rules?
I think what cracked me it was not something like impacting my confidence yet, but I felt bored. I felt like kind of, I know how it's orchestrated, I know how it's done. And when I was growing from region to region, expanding my responsibilities, I realized it's the same, but you have more stress, you have more accountability, you sleep less. But in reality, it's the same process. And I was like, I just don't want to do it again. Yes, if you ask me to do it, I will do it. I will do it very well. But I don't enjoy it as I used to enjoy it at the beginning. And then I decided to take a pause and go get my MBA. And I'm not sure if I wanted MBA back then to get the business knowledge, which kind of was my selling line to the school. Like, okay, so please accept me because I want to build a foundation, not to be self-taught anymore. Or I just needed a year to pause and to reflect. And now, if I connect the dots, I guess it was more the second one because I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I do it very well, but do I like it? And the question was no. And
Mm.
then, and I guess like I'm someone who is very decisive. So I was like, okay, so then we change. There is no drama. I mean, life is beautiful. There are still so many years to live. Like, we change.
Oh, absolutely. So when you decided to leave corporate, I mean, you're living a safety net. There's your life had been, baked into that whole essence, your identity. That safe salary and things of that nature. You were not afraid, didn't you think you were being insane to?
It was, to say the least, uncomfortable. I don't like the word scary, right? I try not to use the word scary. It was surely uncomfortable. Um, it was crazy for all people in my social circle. They considered me stupid. They consider it a mistake. You're really like on the good terms. You're growing fast. You consider top talent in the company. It's just what are you doing, right? And I
Mm.
was like, yeah, like, but what is the trade-off? I'm not happy. And for me, happiness is it has such a big weight in my life. I was like, no, I'm not trading my happiness, my joy for money. You can always make money. And I sincerely believe in it. Like we live in the world that is very abundant. If you put your mind straight to your goal and you put your head down and you will work on it, you'll get it. Yes, it might take time for sure, but you will get it. And I was like, for me to not to make this decision out of fear, I will regret a lot. And so probably one of my values and one of my principles, never ever take decisions out of fear. Like never. And then I thought, okay, what drives me? What drives this discomfort? Yes, it was fear. I was like, okay, then we need to do it. If it's a fear, then of course we need to do it.
Absolutely. Feel the fear and but do it anyway, you know. But what was the reaction? I mean, obviously parents had always wanted you to be a doctor, and there you are now throwing away the very thing that was gonna create safety for yourself.
My dad still doesn't get it. Not like he doesn't get my choice, but he doesn't understand what coaching is. So for him, it's like, okay, so you've been somewhere where it paid well. You've been like on a good, you had a good title. Because again, so we are speaking about generation for him, for whom it's like, okay, title matters, salary matters. The rest I don't understand. And so for him, I was like, okay, I don't understand it, but I trust you. And I think this sentence was enough for me. I was like, okay, he told me, you always made the right decisions. Your decisions always turn out to be correct. So
Mm,
I trust you. And intuitively, again, it felt so right. I was like, okay, so like I didn't even think twice. I was like, where do I sign? Okay, let's go.
so dad didn't understand it, but did you understand what you were getting yourself into? Like, you know, the first days as a coach, and what were those like?
You know, they say when you walk in a fog, you see only next to three steps, right? You don't see the rest. And the most important is to keep walking in the fog.
Mm,
So what I got myself into, I was like, okay, I want to be a coach, but I don't want to be one of those like many coaches we see today everywhere who don't have any credentials, who just call themselves coaches, etc. So I wanted to get education. And so for me, immediately after corporate, like next month, I went into the coaching school, and I went like to the one where education was the most foundational, right? So I really wanted to do it properly, and it was 9 months education. So it's like almost a year. So straight from the corporate, I was like, okay, this year I spent to get my knowledge at place, and then I need to get certified because I wanted to be certified by International Coaching Federation. I want to work under their credentials and not to be self-claimed coach because like I think the pity of the profession today, it's really diluted by people who claim themselves coaches. And I just wanted to do it right. I wanted to do it right for myself, for my clients, because my intention is really generate value, to really generate transformation for my clients. And I've been always honest to myself, and I want to be honest for my clients. So in a way, I didn't have place for fear because my brain was occupied with getting new knowledge. And the moment you put yourself out of your comfort zone, there is so much new information happening, so brain has no time or space to to even get scared. I was like, okay, let's learn.
absolutely. And you know, the interesting thing about all of that is you're absolutely right. These days, if somebody goes to a, you know, a very high energy conference on the weekend and then they walk on top of some coals and then, you know, they come back and they already say, yeah, let's go, let's be amongst it. And you're like, that was only a weekend, man. You know, you didn't. All right.
Exactly.
But today you're now helping meet to senior level women to break, you know, that promotion ceiling. First of all, can you maybe explain to us why that is something that you want to focus on?
Look, I guess my logic is very simple. I'm trying to help myself 5 years ago
Right.
because I'm looking backwards and I try to see, okay, where I struggled, where I had some bottlenecks, what worked, what could have been smoother. And I was like, okay, so the journey could have been smoother. And so I just want to make sure I share my knowledge, I share my expertise with women who are following my steps in different companies, in different geographies, aiming to get to the high levels or aspire to get promoted. And that's what I'm trying to inspire them to do differently. And I guess my second data point, when I took my last corporate assignment, I took a rather big team. And I remember when I was signing the job offer, everyone from the recruiter to general manager told me, you are getting a bad team. And I was like, but how statistically you can have a huge amount of people collectively called as a bad team? It just, numbers wise, it doesn't work. And so I went to interview everyone individually. So I spent 2 weeks spending like a 1 hour talking to every person, trying to understand, okay, what are your drivers? What works for you? What doesn't work for you? And during these interviews, I realized that every single woman that was on my team, because I always ask, how can I help you? And they told me, help me to grow my confidence. I was like, wow. Like I had probably what 40% women on the team, 60% men, maybe 50-50 on. And every single one of them, from junior to the most senior, they ask me to help them with confidence. Confidence to speak publicly, confidence to speak in English, confidence to speak up to higher management, confidence to, I don't know, something else. But it was always coming down to confidence. Like, oh, we have an issue. And that's kind of pushed me to, not pushed me, push me is a forceful word, inspired me to think about local kind of small size development modules for my team, which I then started expanding to different countries because it worked and there was a need. And I was like, but I really enjoy it. I really enjoy helping people and then see this transformation in them because I could observe the growth, right? Since the moment I joined till the moment I left. And I'm still in touch with majority of them. I could see this transformation. And this transformation was really inspiring for me personally. I was like, okay, it means there is something I can give them and what I can give is helpful and it's working. And that was enough for me to keep going.
Oh, absolutely. And so this confidence that these women are coming to you for, what do they stand to lose if they don't acquire this confidence?
They keep playing low. I think that's the biggest issue, right? Because you are still staying at the level where you're kind of limiting yourself to. Instead of unleashing your ambition, aiming to go high, putting your targets like much at a much higher level, they say, okay, I'm good enough. I'll be good enough. It's fine. And it would be also amazing to see amount of energy they would lose because they get paralyzed for a slightly bigger task. Oh my God, tomorrow I need to speak to director. And so they will be preparing for the whole week. I was like, wow, that's a big amount of energy lost. So we need to do something differently.
Does any of this have anything to do with the gender pay gap? You know, why eventually women then get sidelined when it comes to promotions or opportunities to, rise up in the ranks because they are lacking this confidence?
Yeah, for sure. Like, because you're lacking confidence, you surely don't ask for merit increase, extra bonus, right salary when you negotiate, etc. Right? But I don't think because of the low salary or gender gap pay, they have a low confidence. So low confidence is something like probably we inherited, or it's part of our biological scheme, right? Structure. We just need to learn a way to live with this and succeed despite it, right? But it does create some legs in the system if you don't speak up for yourself, if you don't set up your boundaries, if you don't raise your voice or hand. Of course, in a cumulative manner, it has a negative impact on your career.
So if somebody's watching this right now, Julia, and they're probably feeling overlooked or stuck and they just don't quite know what it is that they can do, first of all, where can they go on the internet to find the work that you're doing? And maybe is there one or two things that you can suggest that they immediately do in order for them to elevate their own confidence?
First of all, I would welcome everyone to join my LinkedIn account. So it's Julia Snedkova. It's as the name of the, as you see on your screens. I publish helpful nuggets of how to succeed in your career daily. I also have newsletter. So my intention is really to get out there as much information as possible. And I do get lots of thank you messages afterwards because like I'm taking my own examples. I'm taking examples from my clients in a very confidential way, but I show, okay, what are the bottlenecks today in the corporate environment in 2025? And we're trying to decode it, right? And to your question, what one action anyone can do today? And again, I focus on women, but it could be applicable for men and women, right? So it's very universal. Be proactive. Don't sit and wait because like there is a difference between earning power and positioning yourself for power. Because when you earn power, you just put your head down, you work, and you expect that one day the right promotion, assignment, I don't know, salary increase will come. When you position yourself for power, you treat it as a strategy. You try to be more thoughtful. How you build networks, which projects you choose to work on, what is the power grid, who makes decision. You really become much more thoughtful how the results will come instead of sitting and waiting when someone do it for you. Be proactive. take your destiny, corporate destiny, career destiny in your hands and just go to support it, go to make it happen.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll definitely make sure that the links to the LinkedIn are in the show notes below. But you've mentioned, the year 2025. What has sort of shifted in corporate culture? Is it technology or is it people's mindsets? What makes this the time to actually start looking at the solutions you're offering?
Look, there are two things. First of all, arrival of AI, and I really don't want people to ignore it because it's a big, massive tsunami that is coming. It's already hitting many industries. It's already hitting many roles, and so I really want people to be more thoughtful about it and dedicate time to educate themselves about AI, because the stats today are the following: that already today, and it's a report from McKinsey for the last year, that men from 18 to 24% are more likely to get promoted at every stage of their career than women. So you already have from the get-go at every promotional level, you have a gap of 24% between probability of promotion between men and women. And then if you follow the logic, men are also much more keen to adopt technologies. So they're keen to spend time to learn AI, they're keen to showcase their knowledge at work. And so companies are much more open to people who have skills in AI. So men position themselves a priori in a more favorable position only because they like it, only because they enjoy it, right? So it comes from curiosity. That's why I'm saying to women, like, bring back this curiosity to learn something new, like discover something new, block your agenda, half an hour daily, learn new AI tool so it can work for you and not against you in the year to come. Because for me, the change will hit the market like drastically probably in the next 12 to 18 months. It will be massive. That's my feeling, because I guess many people just underestimate the impact AI is bringing to corporates.
I can only imagine. And also there's the whole concept of working from home, and, remote jobs have now just been open left, right, and center. And maybe some people are afraid if they speak too much, somebody from, overseas can do it cheaper, better, faster. How do people get safe in that sort of environment as well?
Oh, that's a good one. It was my second point, and thank you for reminding me of that, because it looks like, at least based on the discussions I have with my clients, that obviously situation changed significantly after COVID, right? People went to the remote working, majority of still stayed on the remote working, but to build career in the remote setup becomes a bit more complicated. It's a bit more complicated to build your visibility towards decision makers, right? Because you are literally on the screen, you don't have coffee chats anymore, you don't have this informal discussion, your action time only on camera. It's also more difficult to kind of grasp what is the politics, what this unofficial code of communication behind, to make sure you position yourself well. So yes, remote working came to stay. We need to be even more strategic how you position yourself as a promotion material, as a person who is to be considered as a ready to be promoted to take a much more senior role. And then I wouldn't, to your question, I wouldn't see remote working as a risk. I see it as opportunity, to be honest. If you play it well, if you position yourself well, there are so many options out there. It really created an opportunity that didn't exist in the past. Because today, many companies, big startups, scale-ups, they're looking for the remote opportunities because it decreases your cost, right? So it's easy to have spread out teams and manage them online. And so only because you have access to a larger number of career opportunities, you have logically, statistically, a bigger number of chances to succeed, right? So again, you need to go search, choose, find your right fit, apply, get selected. And then when you get selected in a bigger pool, be more strategic how you build careers there, because it's different than offline world.
Absolutely. Now, Julia, you also said you are coaching the you of 5 years ago. And, if we maybe just take a cross section of what you were doing 5 years ago, you were, leading global teams, multinational sort of endeavors and things like that. That meant very different cultures, languages, and things of that sort of nature. Now, through your journey, while you're moving these countries and shifting roles and things like that, did you ever find that some countries maybe have it better than others or difficult than others, especially when it comes to the problem that you're solving there?
Look, definitely. And I guess what changed is my own awareness and understanding that there are no, yes, there are cultures that could seem to be similar, but they're not similar or identical in the nutshell, right? And so it's up to us to be open-minded. It's up to us to learn what works in one culture, what doesn't work in another culture. I came from Russia, right? So it's talkers. We say what we think. Like we the distance from the task to the action, it's a direct line. We are like really go-getters in a way. Then I moved to Switzerland, and it's a completely different cultural code. You really need to discuss, you need to explain, you need to make it softer. So it's done differently. It's still done, it's still delivered. You still get from point A to point B, but your trajectory is not the same. And so for me, I was like, okay, Switzerland difficult for me because it was the company where I worked with was very multicultural. So in a way, it was kind of still diverse environment. But then I came to France, and in France, it was monocultural environment. And so here I was like really surrounded to cultures that dominated me, and it didn't fit my old pattern of cultural behavior. I was like, okay, so definitely it's my job to change. It's my job to learn. It's my job to adapt. And it was like interesting experience because especially even though I lived only in 5 countries, I managed many countries. And working with teams located in different regions, I don't know, in Morocco, in Israel, in South Africa, like you really need to position yourself differently or communicate differently or build relationships with teams differently. And that's what I really, really enjoy. Of course, now it helps me a lot by working with clients because you have clients with different countries and they have different cultural backgrounds. And you also, as a coach, you must take it into account as well.
Oh, absolutely. And I kind of feel like obviously every step of the way things are changing literally really fast, and people are going to need somebody to hold their hand. Now also, I would suppose you as a coach, you're also, on the cutting edge, looking at what's next and what's, coming up ahead. So you've already mentioned AI and also the advent of remote work and stuff. What do you see as the next frontier of your work? Like what sort of problems do you think you're going to be solving by the end of the year or the end of 2026?
My gut feel, apologies for my voice. My gut feel, I don't have any data, but it's what kind of more intuition, right? What I have, that now we have such a big arrival of AI and tech being omnipresent in our lives, that the next frontier that we will face, it's people wanting to become more human. Because eventually we'll go back to our roots, right? We are human beings, right? We have emotions, we have feelings. You cannot scrap it, you cannot replace it, you cannot give it away to AI. And so society today already statistically is getting more isolated. Works, we statistically became more lonely, like all alone. And so we will need to have more human presence in our lives. And I guess our coaching will be needed even more in the future. Coach different directions, but eventually working with the human part of us. It's how do I bring back my emotions? How do I bring back my feelings? Because today what happens, like for instance, I see lots of people use AI instead of coaching, right? So, okay, I'm going to talk to ChatGPT, it will answer me a couple of questions, etc. But it will not help you to work through your emotions. It will not help you to work through your feelings. And this one, yes, you can put in the bucket and ignore it, but eventually it will pop up back to the surface. So my gut feel as coaches, that's where we will need to be more present in the future.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of which, I really enjoyed your presence on the Online Prosperity Show today. I mean, we could have just spoken to your AI, but you chose to come and smile with us today. So I really appreciate this chat and just really opening us up to what is possible and where people can actually go on. Maybe you've got some parting or last words that you just want people to know, especially women that you work with. That hey.
Look, I have so many words for women, right? Because I really want them to go and reach their potential. Don't limit themselves. Take actions. Take small steps, even today, whatever the steps they define. Because life, sincerely, is beautiful. It's limitless, and all the limitations we create for ourselves in life and career, in relationship, it's in our heads, right? And I just really want people to remove those obstacles and keep going. And again, it's applied for men and women because, like, don't limit itself. Let's just unleash the potential we have inside, the fire we have inside.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I mean, this conversation has been a ride from the polished boardrooms of PNG to now the messy entrepreneurial middle that's just, figuring itself out and things of that nature. And, I really like how we went from, that small doubt to now clarity, because had we spoke to you 5 years ago, I don't think we would have created something like this today. You would have just been still in over trying to figure things out and things like that. So I really appreciate the journey that you've taken.
Prosper, thank you so much for taking me on this journey to share it with you, right? Because I guess we learn about the journey when we start telling it to someone. Because otherwise, it just sits there on the bookshelf. We don't open it, we don't read it. And now you just made me to rediscover it. Thank you so much for this. Absolutely enjoyed the conversation.
Fantastic. And for those that are watching and listening, you can also tell that the journey isn't linear. It's messy, it's relational. There's people that can stop you in your tracks, but you also have to stand up and say, nah, this is for me, and things like that. And it all often comes from leaning into all that tension. And guess what? I now viscerally believe whatever you're doing or going through in life, you should really play close attention, because one day you have a good story to tell, not only in books or on keynotes, but also on the online prosperity show, just like what Julia has done for us today. So if Julia's story struck something inside of you, and maybe you've also maybe felt stuck, overlooked, or like your ambition was just boxed in that proverbial glass box or glass ceiling, then I really hope that this episode has given you not just inspiration, but somewhat of a blueprint. Okay. So I also encourage you to share this with somebody who is just keep bumping into those glass ceilings, and it seems to be not going anywhere. And in the show notes, I'll be adding Julia's LinkedIn so that you can actually jump on and see what she is doing and how she's helping people. And I don't know what you're going to do with this information today, but I'm really grateful we had the conversation with Julia. And bye for now.